"You shouldn't be out here alone, sir, not dressed like that in South Bronx at 3 a.m. The man didn't respond. He stood hunched near the curb, rain pelting down on his $1,000 coat, his shoes sinking slightly into a puddle at the edge of the cracked sidewalk. Then, without warning, his legs gave out. He collapsed forward, face first into the cold, wet asphalt. For a few seconds, no one moved. Across the street, two men in hooded jackets leaned against the wall of a shuttered liquor store. One of them nudged the other, gesturing toward the fallen man. Their interest was obvious and not friendly. They started to cross the street. Slowly, deliberately. Maya Williams didn't wait to see what they wanted. She darted into the rain without thinking, splashing through the gutter as she rushed toward the man. "Sir, hey!" she called, kneeling beside him. Up close, she could see that he was older, probably in his 50s, well-groomed, and clearly not from the neighborhood. A luxury watch clung to his wrist. His wallet had fallen nearby, open. She looked up again. The two men were closing in, now just a dozen steps away. "Nope, not tonight," Maya muttered. With surprising strength, she hooked her arms under his and hoisted him up, dragging him toward the side staff entrance of the Velvet Lantern Inn. The man groaned incoherently, but his legs moved just enough to keep from dragging. They slipped inside just as the two strangers reached the sidewalk. Maya didn't look back. Inside the inn, the hallway lights buzzed overhead, casting tired yellow glows on the tile floor. Maya eased the man onto a bench by the laundry room. His head lolled to one side, soaked hair clinging to his forehead. His breath was heavy with whiskey. She rifled through his wallet to find some identification, trying not to feel guilty. One of the business cards inside was gold-trimmed. Harvey Whitmore. She blinked. "Wait, that Harvey Whitmore? Anthony," she called to the front desk clerk. "Can you verify this ID?" Anthony returned with wide eyes. "Holy hell," he whispered. "That's him. That's really him." Maya didn't waste time. She grabbed her phone and ordered a cab. "I'm not letting him crash here, and I'm definitely not letting some scammy Uber driver swipe his cards while he's passed out." 15 minutes later, the cab pulled up. Maya pulled a 50 from her own wallet, folded it tight, and stuffed it into the driver's hand before the man could say a word. "Don't charge him. Just get him home. He's out of it." The cabbie raised an eyebrow but nodded. She turned to help Harvey into the back seat. His body leaned against her with the weight of someone who'd let go of the wheel. As she fastened the belt across him, he mumbled something. "You, good people," he slurred. "Don't forget, you're the kind that matters." She didn't answer. She just closed the door gently. The cab pulled away into the mist, its taillights glowing red in the fog. Inside, Maya stood still for a moment, letting the air settle. Her shoes were soaked, her hoodie clung to her shoulders, and the clock inside the front desk now read 3:52 a.m. Just another night at the Velvet Lantern. Except, somehow, it didn't feel like it. She walked back toward the staff locker, peeling off her wet hoodie and wringing out the sleeves. She didn't know what drove her to act tonight, instinct, maybe, or just a deep refusal to let one more person fall while the world turned its back. Outside, the storm began to break, and far above the buildings of South Bronx, the first light of morning cracked the sky open, quiet, steady, and irreversible. The following Thursday, just before the lunch rush, Maya was folding cocktail napkins at the end of the bar when the bell above the entrance gave a sharp chime. She didn't look up. Probably Mr. Travers, the regular who always asked for extra lemon in his iced tea but never tipped more than a nickel. "Excuse me," a smooth voice said, low and polished. She glanced up, already forming a polite smile, and froze. Standing there, crisp suit perfectly tailored, hair neatly combed back, and eyes sharp with intent, was the same man she had dragged off the sidewalk a week ago. Only now, there was no trace of the half-conscious, rain-soaked mess she'd hauled into a cab. He looked composed, powerful. Maya's fingers clenched the napkin. "I believe I owe you a proper thank you," he said. The entire bar went still. Even Anthony at the front desk peeked over the edge of his monitor. Carla, the morning housekeeper, suddenly found an urgent need to wipe the countertop right beside them. Maya didn't blink. "Looks like you're walking just fine." "I'd say the cab did its job." Harvey stepped closer, his tone calm but firm. "It wasn't the cab that saved me that night. I didn't do anything anyone else wouldn't have done," she replied, arms folded across her chest. Then it's a shame no one else did. His gaze flicked around the room, then back to her. I looked into you, Miss Williams. Maya's stomach tightened. I'm sure you did. You dropped out of college at 19 to care for your mother. You've worked 3 jobs at once, kept this place running while the manager slipped money under the table, and you've paid more out of pocket for guest damages than any employee should. You even paid for my cab fare when you thought I couldn't handle it. Maya narrowed her eyes. You're making a lot of assumptions. No, he said gently. I'm stating facts. There was a long silence between them. Then he pulled a slim leather folder from inside his coat and placed it on the counter. I own this property, he said, and several others. But this one, the Velvet Lantern, it's been on the chopping block for a while now. Underperforming, poor management, low returns. I was ready to liquidate. Maya swallowed hard. If you're firing me, you came overdressed. Ugh, I'm not firing you, Harvey said. I'm offering you ownership. The napkin in her hand tore in two. What? She said, louder than she intended. He didn't flinch. You're the only reason this place hasn't collapsed. The only reason guests still check in. I've run numbers. Watched the surveillance from that night. You didn't have to do what you did. You could have left me on that sidewalk, like everyone else. People don't just give away hotels, Maya said, voice tight. Especially not to haggard waitresses in the Bronx. People don't usually save billionaires from freezing to death in the rain, he replied. She stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or scream. So this is what? Some rich man's redemption tour? His smile faded. This isn't about guilt. It's about recognition. I don't need your recognition, she said. No, he said quietly. But you deserve it. The folder on the counter remained untouched. She looked at it like it might bite. I need time, she finally said. You've got it, Harvey replied, sliding the folder closer to her. Everything's in there. Legal transfer, debt clearances, renovation grants. My lawyer will walk you through every detail. And if I say no, then I'll respect that. But I hope you won't. He turned to go, then paused. There's something about you, Maya. You don't wait for permission to do what's right. That's rare. And then he was gone. Just like that. Maya stood motionless, surrounded by silence and eyes pretending not to stare. Carla muttered, You gonna open that thing? Maya stared at the folder. I don't even know what's in it. You just got handed a miracle, girl, Carla said. Might want to see if it's real. Later that night, after wiping down the bar and locking the front doors, Maya sat alone in the empty lobby. The folder lay in her lap, unopened. She glanced at her phone. No messages. No missed calls. Her mother was already asleep at the care home, and the silence made the walls echo louder. She opened the folder. Inside were documents stamped and signed, pre-approved by lawyers she'd never met. A detailed breakdown of hotel debts, most of them cleared by wire transfers from a shell corporation. A proposed renovation budget. A training grant, all under her name. In the final page was a handwritten note. You gave a stranger dignity. Let this give you the same. H.W. Maya closed the folder, pressed her palm against it, and closed her eyes. This was insane. Impossible. But maybe, just maybe, it was real. And if it was, her life was about to change forever. If you believe Maya's kindness truly deserves something this beautiful, give her a like. And where are you watching this from? Share it in the comments below. Who knows? Someone near you might be watching this story too. Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay on her futon with the folder still open beside her, staring at the ceiling in her tiny apartment above the laundromat. The air smelled faintly of dryer sheets and bleach. The hum of the machines below was strangely soothing, but her thoughts spun like loose change in a dryer. A hotel. Her hotel. No, it couldn't be real. Not without strings. No one gave away power like that without wanting something in return. And yet the paperwork sat right there, thick and dry and undeniably legal. Every page notarized, every line clear. Harvey Whitmore hadn't just made a promise, he'd already set the pieces in motion. She picked up her phone and called the care home. Her mother's voice crackled over the line, soft and raspy. Maya, baby, it's 2 a.m. I know, Maya whispered. But what if something big just happened? What if something impossible? Her mother chuckled, a fragile sound laced with years of fatigue. Did you finally win the lottery? Worse, Maya said, tears in her throat. I think someone gave me a hotel. There was a long pause. Then, well, damn. The next morning, Maya walked back into the Velvet Lantern Inn not as a waitress, but as its potential owner. The air felt heavier. Even the old chandelier above the lobby seemed to swing with more judgment than usual. Anthony raised an eyebrow when she stepped behind the front desk. You open that folder yet? Yeah. He gave a low whistle. So, what now? Maya didn't answer. Instead, she opened the office door behind the lobby, a place she'd only glimpsed when Carl, the former manager, would emerge in a cloud of cigar smoke, barking about linens or liquor shipments. The room was musty, stacked with old invoices, broken chairs, and a calendar from 2014 still pinned to the wall. She took a slow breath and stepped inside. For the rest of the day, Maya disappeared into that room. She sorted files, checked vendor lists, and called the phone numbers on the bills. Some were disconnected. Others answered with unfamiliar voices and vague responses. More than once, she hung up mid-sentence when things didn't feel right. By noon, she'd confirmed at least 3 vendors on the books didn't exist. Elmridge Cleaning Company had no tax ID. Metro Fire Systems was registered to a P.O. box in Delaware. One invoice showed thousands spent on HVAC diagnostic updates that never happened. It wasn't just disorganization. It was a mess intentional, possibly criminal. At 3 p.m., she called the number listed for Harvey's legal representative. A calm, clipped voice answered. Brenda Whitlow speaking. This is Maya Williams. I was told you're handling the transfer for the Velvet Lantern Inn. Yes, Miss Williams. Everything's in order. We're waiting on your signature to complete the ownership change. Do you have any questions? Yeah, Maya said. Why would someone gift me a business drowning in fake expenses and phantom vendors? There was a brief pause. Mr. Whitmore believes in second chances. He also believes in your capacity to fix what others broke. Maya's voice dropped. I'm not here to clean up a mess that rich men made while looking the other way. Then don't, Brenda said calmly. Make it yours. Burn what you need. Rebuild. That night, Maya stayed late. She pulled the broken blinds in the office, poured herself a cup of coffee from the front desk, and laid out every invoice on the floor. Around midnight, Carla appeared in the doorway holding a Tupperware container. I figured you'd still be here, she said. I made sweet potatoes. Want some? Maya looked up, exhausted but grateful. Please. They ate on the floor, surrounded by paperwork and dust. You really going through with this? Carla asked between bites. I don't know yet, Maya admitted. Part of me thinks I'm crazy. The other part, she sighed. I think I've already started. You always were the only one around here with any damn sense. Maya smiled faintly. Carl sure didn't like hearing it. Carla rolled her eyes. Carl didn't like anyone questioning his cigar budget or his cash drawer shortages. You take this place over, Maya, and people will back you. The right people anyway. Huh. Maya looked around the office, this neglected, hidden room that had once been the heartbeat of the hotel. Now it throbbed with a different kind of energy, possibility. The next morning she returned with fresh clothes, a notebook, and a list. She started by meeting with every staff member individually. She asked questions. She listened. Some, like Carla and Anthony, were supportive. Others, like Miguel in maintenance, scoffed at the idea of the waitress playing boss. But Maya didn't flinch. On Friday, she posted a notice on the bulletin board. Effective immediately, the Velvet Lantern Inn is under new ownership. We rebuild from the inside out. If you're in, I'll see you Monday at 9 a.m. If not, I wish you well. Maya Williams. She didn't sleep much that weekend. On Monday morning, she stood at the front desk with a fresh pot of coffee, a clipboard, and her heart thudding like a war drum. At 8:57, Carla walked in wearing her usual faded sneakers and a new shade of lipstick. At 9 o'clock, Anthony arrived with 3 printed spreadsheets. At 9:05, Jenny from housekeeping came in quietly, head low, but nodding once. By 9:30, 12 employees had returned. Maya stood in front of them, barely breathing, and said, I'm not a CEO, I'm not a miracle worker, but I'm here, and if we build this place right, none of us will have to go home ashamed anymore. There was silence. Then Carla clapped once. Anthony followed. Then the room filled with applause, not loud, not showy, but solid, real. Maya exhaled for the first time in days. The rebuild had begun. Maya's first week as owner of the Velvet Lantern felt like trying to fix a leaky roof in a hurricane. Every time she patched one hole, 3 more sprang open. The boiler gave out on Wednesday. The delivery company missed Friday's shipment. And the guest in room 206 claimed a ghost stole her earrings, though Maya suspected it was the dripping ceiling and a loose floorboard. Still, something had shifted. The staff began to show up early. Jenny, who once ducked out 15 minutes before her shift ended, was now staying after hours to reorganize the supply closets. Even Miguel had grudgingly fixed the hot water pipe without being asked twice. There was movement, a pulse, a heartbeat, but underneath the small victories, something darker brewed. On Thursday morning, Maya was reviewing the vendor contracts in the back office when she noticed a strange name repeated across multiple invoices: Briarstone Holdings. The company billed for everything from pest control to elevator maintenance, but Maya had never met a representative from them. And the amounts, always just under $5,000, were oddly consistent, like someone was deliberately staying beneath a red flag threshold. She leaned back in the squeaky office chair and stared at the invoice. The company's address was listed as a suite in Midtown Manhattan. She pulled out her phone and dialed. The line rang twice before a robotic voice answered. "This number has been disconnected." Her jaw tightened. She tried another Nash Financial Group listed on a security system upgrade from 6 months ago. Same result. No connection. Her pulse picked up. "Carla," she called into the hallway. "You got a second?" Carla poked her head in, arms crossed, wiping flour from her apron. "If you're asking me to fix the ice machine again, the answer is no. I nearly electrocuted myself last time." Maya chuckled, then turned serious. "Do you remember any vendors named Briarstone Holdings or Nash Financial?" Carla's brow furrowed. "Briarstone. Yeah. Carl used to mention them when the books didn't add up. Said they handled things. Never met a single person from there. You digging into old ghosts?" "Maybe," Maya murmured. "Or something worse." That night, long after the last guest had gone to bed, Maya sat alone in the office with every folder, every invoice, every receipt spread out like a paper crime scene. She used yellow sticky notes to mark patterns, repeated company names, suspicious amounts, odd delivery records. 3 names popped up again and again: Briarstone Holdings, Nash Financial, and Eastgate Logistics. All of them billed thousands for services she couldn't verify. And all were connected to the previous management, Carl and whoever had set up the vendor accounts. By midnight, her head ached, but the picture was becoming clearer. This wasn't just bad bookkeeping. Someone had been siphoning money from the Velvet Lantern for years, quietly, strategically. She opened the old locked cabinet in the back of the room, the one she'd found a rusted key for last week, wedged inside the couch cushions in the lounge. Inside were boxes of ledgers, not digital records, handwritten. She pulled one out, dusted it off, and opened to a page marked March Laundry Service Diversion. It listed transactions that didn't appear on any electronic file. Hundreds, sometimes thousands, sent to names that didn't appear in any vendor list. Fake contracts, mirror invoices. Maya's breath caught. This wasn't negligence. This was laundering. She leaned back, gripping the edges of the book. Her fingers trembled. Her phone buzzed. A text from Anthony. "Hey, FYI. Some guy in a suit came by asking about the new owner. Said he was an old friend of Carl's. Didn't leave a card. Just a weird vibe." Maya didn't respond. She closed the ledger, placed it in her bag, and locked the rest back inside the cabinet. The next morning, she called Brenda Whitlow, Harvey's legal rep. "Miss Whitlow," Maya began, voice steady but low. "Did you or Mr. Whitmore ever look into Carl's financial activity before the transfer?" There was a pause on the other end. Number he was advised to walk away clean. Mr. Whitmore didn't want to inherit baggage. "Well," Maya said, "he might have gifted me more than a hotel. I think someone was laundering money through this place and they might still be trying. I'll inform Mr. Whitmore, but be careful, Maya. People who set up schemes like that don't like the lights turned on." Maya hung up and stood for a long moment in the office. Eyes closed, hand pressed flat against the file cabinet. This wasn't just her fight anymore. She had inherited a battlefield. By late afternoon, She gathered the staff in the lobby for an unscheduled meeting. The chandelier flickered above them, but no one joked about it this time. "I need to tell you all something," she began. "I think the velvet lantern was used for more than just hospitality in the past. Some of the vendors we've paid well, they don't exist, and the money went somewhere." A beat of silence. Carla's face tightened. Jenny looked away. "Do you think Carl was involved?" Anthony asked. "I don't know yet," Maya said, "but I do know this. If we keep moving forward without cleaning this out, we're building on poison." Carla spoke first. "So what do you need us to do?" Maya looked around the circle. These weren't corporate experts or trained investigators. They were line cooks, clerks, cleaners, but they were hers. "I need eyes, ears, stories. Anything strange," Carl said. "Anyone who came by after hours. Sketchy deliveries, write it down. Tell me. We piece it together." Carla nodded. "You got it." Jenny raised her hand. "There was a guy, a few months ago, called himself Mr. V, real slick, drove a black BMW, came in late nights to meet Carl, said they were discussing expansions. I didn't trust him." Maya's spine stiffened. Mr. V. She added it to her growing list of shadows. That night, she stayed again, the office dimly lit, her laptop open. She typed every name, every address, cross-referencing P.O. boxes, abandoned websites, dead phone numbers, and on one Ferumbury deep in the comments of a whistleblower article she saw it. "Briarstone is a front. Check who's behind it. The guy with the initials VK." Maya's heart thudded. She copied the thread and added it to a folder on her desktop labeled simply, "Proof." She didn't know how deep this went. Not yet. But she had found the rot. And now, she was going to cut it out. 2 nights later, Maya stood behind the reception desk, pretending to sort reservation cards while her eyes stayed fixed on the glass entrance doors. The lobby was quiet except for the buzz of the old vending machine and the occasional creak from the second floor. Carla had already gone home. Jenny was doing a final sweep of the third-floor hallway, and Anthony was in the back office running the day's numbers. But Maya was waiting. At 9:42 p.m., the doors opened. He walked in like he owned the place. Tall, tailored, and too smooth to be local. His suit was a deep charcoal gray, perfectly pressed, and his cologne reached her a full 2 seconds before his voice did. "Evening," he said with a smile that never reached his eyes. Maya stepped out from behind the desk. "We're full tonight." He chuckled. "That's a shame. I'm not here for a room. Just wanted to see what all the buzz was about." She said nothing. He stepped closer, glanced around. "You've cleaned up quite a bit. I like the lighting changes. Softer, less interrogative." "Do I know you?" Maya asked. He leaned one hand on the desk, letting the silence stretch. "Call me Vincent." Her throat tightened. The name from the whistleblower thread, VK. He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek black business card. No phone number, just his name and a gold-embossed V. Maya didn't touch it. Vincent smiled wider. "You've been busy, asking questions, calling vendors that were quite happy staying invisible, digging through files most people would burn." "I'm just trying to run a hotel," she said. "No," he replied, eyes narrowing slightly. "You're trying to play detective in a story you don't understand." Maya didn't flinch. "You're right. I don't understand. Why someone like you would bother showing up at all unless you had something to hide." His jaw twitched just for a second. "Smart girl. But smart doesn't always mean safe." The air changed. Vincent stood up straighter. "Walk away, Maya. Enjoy the hotel. Repaint the walls. Serve your peach cobbler. But stop chasing shadows. You're not built for what's behind them." Maya's voice was low. "You don't scare me. You should be." Then, just like that, he turned and walked out. No threats, no violence, just calm menace wrapped in a designer suit. Maya stood frozen until the sound of the door chime faded into the street. She turned and walked straight into the office. Anthony looked up from the desk, surprised. "Everything okay?" "No," she said. "Call Carla. Tell her to change all the locks first thing tomorrow. Front, back, storage, everything. And I want surveillance up and running before the weekend." "Was that the guy?" She nodded. "Vincent Kane, he was here." Anthony's eyes widened. "What did he want?" "To scare me." Later that night, Maya sat at her kitchen table with the ledger open, her laptop beside it. She scrolled through public business filings, comparing addresses, matching LLC names, tracing board member overlaps. It was exhausting work, but by 2 a.m., a pattern emerged. Vincent Kane was tied to at least 3 shell companies that had built the Velvet Lantern. Through a company called Westridge Strategies, he had stakes in hospitality portfolios up and down the eastern seaboard. The man was laundering millions through small-town properties that barely broke even on paper. And now, Maya had interrupted his flow. She copied every file, every link, every document onto a secure USB. Then she tucked the drive inside an envelope and scrawled one word on the front: insurance. She hid it beneath the floorboard under her bed. The next day, the retaliation began. At 8 a.m., the walk-in freezer failed. Again, Jenny opened it to find everything inside spoiled and dripping. At 9:30 a.m., the fire inspector showed up unannounced. He cited them for 3 violations, including one for a non-compliant extinguisher that had passed inspection 3 weeks earlier. At 11:15 a.m., a delivery truck backed too sharply into the loading dock, cracking the concrete and shattering 2 trash bins. The driver claimed the brakes slipped. By 2 p.m., Maya's hands were shaking as she filled out insurance forms. Carla sat across from her in the lobby, arms folded. "This ain't random." Maya didn't look up. "I know." "Then what do we do?" "We hold the line." That night, she met with the staff, told them everything. Not the details, just enough. "That man who came by," she said, "he's not here to negotiate. He's here to bully. And when bullies feel you pushing back, they hit harder." "We could lose the place," Miguel muttered. "We could," Maya agreed. "But if we stay silent, we'll lose more than that." Anthony asked. "What are you going to do?" Maya looked at him, voice steady. "Tell the truth." That weekend, she called the one person she hadn't spoken to yet, Harvey Whitmore. When he answered, his voice was tired, but familiar. "Maya, you gave me this hotel," she said. "Did you know what was behind it?" Silence. "I suspected," he finally said, "but I told myself it wasn't my problem anymore. It is now. I didn't mean for you to get pulled into this." But I am," Maya replied. "And I need to know, are you going to help me or walk away again?" Harvey exhaled slowly. "Tell me what you found." Maya did. Every thread, every file, every visit. By the time she finished, there was no silence left between them. Only resolve. "I'll call someone I trust," Harvey said. "Someone who doesn't owe Vincent a damn thing." Maya closed her eyes. "Good, because I don't plan to back down." Outside, the wind kicked up along the South Bronx streets. Trash danced across the sidewalks. Inside the inn, Maya opened the front doors and stood in the threshold, watching the clouds build. The storm was coming, but this time, she wasn't facing it alone. 3 days later, Maya sat across from a woman in a navy trench coat with a press badge clipped to the collar. They were tucked into a corner booth at a quiet diner in Mott Haven, far enough from the Velvet Lantern to avoid curious eyes, but close enough for Maya to walk back if anything went sideways. The woman stirred her tea methodically. "I've read your emails. Listened to your voicemail 3 times. What you're sitting on, it's not small." "I know," Maya said, steady. "That's why I didn't want to send it through a tip line. I needed someone with teeth." The woman gave a small nod. "Name's Sarah Monroe, investigative journalist, Bronx Gazette. 4 exposés, 3 lawsuits, 2 city council members ousted. I don't scare easy." "I'm counting on that," Maya replied, sliding the flash drive across the table. Sarah didn't touch it right away. "You understand that if I run this, it won't just impact Vincent Kane. If there are real laundering ties here, real offshore connections, it could bring down businesses, banks, maybe even people you're working with." Maya's jaw tightened. "If they're guilty, let them fall." Sarah studied her for a moment, then picked up the flash drive. "All right, Miss Williams, buckle in." Back at the Velvet Lantern, the air had shifted. The sabotage had stopped. No more surprise inspections, no more broken equipment, but the stillness was worse. Like the moment before a tidal wave hits the shore. Every shadow made Maya flinch. Every unexpected knock had her pulse climbing. Anthony had taken to staying late, just in case. Carla kept a bat behind the laundry room door. Jenny insisted on walking Maya to her car after every shift, even though she lived 4 blocks away. And through it all, Maya worked. She reorganized the office files into digital folders. She installed security cameras, real ones, not the plastic dummies Carl used. She pulled every outdated piece of vendor information and started rebuilding a clean supply chain from scratch. She even renamed the manager's office Operations Center, not just to feel important, but because it was now the beating heart of resistance. Every night, she'd glance at her phone, waiting for an update from Sarah. And then one evening, the message came. It's happening. Sunday morning. Front page. Maya didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. The article dropped like a bomb. Headline: Local hotel at center of multi-million-dollar laundering scheme fraud network tied to high-profile hospitality investor. Sarah hadn't held back. She named names. She connected dots. She published scans of invoices, charts, offshore transfers, and even a snippet of one of Carl's old hand-signed ledgers that linked directly to a Vincent-controlled entity. The piece exploded online. By mid-morning, Maya's phone rang non-stop. News stations, blog writers, radio hosts, former guests asking if she still had the peach cobbler on the menu. And then came the cops. 2 unmarked cars pulled up just after noon. Maya stood at the front desk as 2 detectives walked in, one flashing a badge. "We'd like to speak with Miss Maya Williams." "That's me," she said, voice calm. They took her into the back office. They were polite, professional but pointed. "What made you start looking into the vendors?" one asked. "Because none of it made sense," she said, "and because too many people assumed I wouldn't ask." They asked for her flash drives. She handed over duplicates. They asked about threats. She gave them Vincent's card. By the time they left, half the staff had gathered in the lobby, watching through the windows. Maya stepped out and faced them. "I'm not in trouble," she said, raising her voice just enough. "But the people who were using this hotel for crime, they are." The group exhaled almost in unison. That night, Maya sat in the same booth at the diner with Sarah Monroe, nursing a decaf coffee while her body buzzed with exhausted adrenaline. "You handled yourself like a pro," Sarah said. "Not bad for a hotel manager." "Technically, I was a waitress a month ago." Sarah smiled. "Not anymore. I just wanted a safe place to work. A place where my mom could be proud to visit. I didn't sign up to blow open an interstate fraud ring." Sarah leaned back. "Nobody signs up, but when the moment finds you, you either stand up or let it pass." Maya thought about that on the walk home. The sky was clear, no sirens, no shadows, just the quiet hum of the city catching its breath. She paused in front of the velvet lantern and looked up at the sign. The light above it flickered once, then steadied. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. Anthony looked up from the counter. "They just aired it on Channel 7, he said. "Your name, your face, everything." Jenny peeked out from the stairwell. "You looked good on television. Powerful." Maya shook her head. "I looked terrified." "Same thing," Anthony grinned. Later, after everyone had gone home, Maya wandered into the dining area and sat by the window, watching the streetlights blink in rhythm with her thoughts. She pulled out her phone and opened a new note. To-do list. Tomorrow. 1. Start legal process to rebrand hotel. 2. Create hiring ad for security officer. 3. Order new outdoor sign. 4. Call mom. She added one more line, paused, then typed. 5. Breathe. She set her phone down, leaned back in the chair, and finally allowed herself to exhale. She wasn't at the end, but she'd turned the corner, and the road ahead, uncertain, messy, unpaved, was finally hers. 1 week after the article broke, Maya stood at the edge of the Velvet Lantern's parking lot, watching as 2 contractors lowered the old hotel sign from its rusted metal hooks. The faded gold letters, once proud, now weather-worn, squealed as they were taken down. A few curious passers-by paused on the sidewalk, watching from a distance. It wasn't just a sign being replaced. It was the end of an era. The new sign sat nearby, wrapped in a white canvas sheet. Maya hadn't revealed the new name to Antonino, even Carla. She wanted the first unveiling to mean something. Inside, the hotel buzzed with energy. Foot traffic had doubled since the article. Local businesses dropped off flyers asking to partner. Strangers from across the borough booked rooms, curious to see the hotel that stood up. News crews still called daily, but Maya had stopped returning most of them. She wasn't chasing headliness, he was chasing restoration. The inside had changed too. The front desk now had fresh paint. The walls were adorned with framed photos of South Bronx landmarks, and the once dusty lobby had the smell of fresh polish and cinnamon from Carla's homemade potpourri. But Maya knew none of that erased what the hotel had been. It wasn't enough to rebrand the outside if the inside hadn't truly healed. That's why she had agreed to meet Harvey. She hadn't spoken to him since their last phone call. He had offered to send funds discreetly, to continue righting the wrong, as he called it. But Maya insisted if he was going to show his face again, he needed to do it in person. He arrived quietly, stepping out of a town car that parked at the far edge of the lot. No entourage, no fanfare. Maya met him halfway. Harvey looked thinner, older than she remembered. His once slicked hair now had flecks of gray at the temples, and the usual designer sheen was traded for a navy sweater and dark slacks. "Maya," he said, voice soft. She nodded. "Mr. Whitmore." They stood silently for a beat, the wind playing with the corner of the canvas sheet behind them. "You did what I should have done a long time ago," he said finally. "No," she said, arms folded. "I did what you were too afraid to finish." He winced but didn't argue. Maya turned, gesturing to the building. "I cleaned it out, the records, the staff, the ghosts, but I didn't do it alone." "I read the follow-up piece," Harvey said. "Sarah's second article. You gave the hotel back to the neighborhood." "No," Maya said, her voice firmer. "I gave it to myself." He glanced at the workers by the sign. "What's the new name?" Maya stepped closer, lifting one corner of the canvas just enough for him to see. He blinked once, then smiled. "Fitting," he murmured. "You can stay for the reveal," she offered. "But no speeches." "No speeches," he agreed. They walked toward the lobby together. Carla spotted them through the glass and nearly dropped her clipboard. Jenny elbowed Anthony and whispered something that made him choke on his coffee. Maya smiled. "Still the talk of the lobby, I see." "Some things don't change," Harvey replied. Inside, they held a small gathering, just staff, regulars, and a few neighbors. Maya stood on a small step stool near the front door, hands gripping the edge of the canvas. Her voice didn't need a microphone. "I want to thank every one of you for holding the line with me," she said. "This building has seen storms, but you've all been the anchors. This name change isn't just cosmetics, it's a declaration." She stepped down and gave Carla a nod. Together, they pulled the canvas free. The new sign gleamed in brushed bronze letters. "The Lantern House." Below it, in smaller script, "A place to belong." Applause broke out, gentle at first, then loud, heartfelt. Some of the guests cheered. Carla wiped her eyes and muttered something about allergies. Harvey clapped too, but stayed at the back. After the crowd dispersed, he approached Maya at the front desk. "I brought something," he said, handing her a manila envelope. "What is it?" "Final transfer documents," he said. "This time, you own the land too. No leases, no loopholes." Maya opened the envelope and skimmed the documents. It was all their titles, deeds, full release. Clean and unconditional. "I don't want anything else hanging over your head," he said. "Not from me, not from the past." She looked at him, and for the first time, saw not the man who had handed her a mess but the one trying, however clumsily, to fix what he broke. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded once. "Goodbye, Maya." He left without another word. That night, Maya walked through the Lantern House alone. Each floor had a different smell: lemongrass on 2, lemon polish on 3. The sounds were familiar now. The creak in the hall by 307, the rattle of the old vending machine coil. She paused outside room 206, the ghost lady's room, and smiled. No more ghosts here. Back in the office, she pulled out a new notebook labeled Phase 2. Inside were plans: rooftop garden, after-school reading room, a community lending library. But on the first page, in large letters, she had written, "We don't just run a hotel. We hold the door open. For everyone." She closed the notebook and placed it on the desk. Outside, the new sign shone steady in the night. No flicker, no shadows, just a lantern, burning quietly. For home, for hope, for good. A month passed, and the lantern house wasn't just surviving, it was glowing. Locals started calling it the heart of the block. The front porch was rarely empty. An old man sipping coffee with his crossword, a couple of school kids finishing homework, sometimes even Miss Rose from the flower shop next door playing dominoes with Carla on lunch break. It wasn't just a hotel anymore. It was a second home for people who didn't know they needed one. Inside, the lobby smelled of fresh pine and lemon polish. The velvet chairs had been reupholstered in deep forest green, and soft jazz played over the new speakers Jenny had installed with her brother, who'd just come home from college. A community board near the elevator announced weekly events: Sunday poetry night, Wednesday book club, Friday open mic. Maya stood in the middle of it one Saturday morning, coffee in hand, watching a little boy drop 2 quarters into the snack machine with a grin that made her chest tighten. She remembered being his age, clinging to her mother's hand in bus stations, hoping someone would talk to them, not around them. Now, she was the one creating the space where people felt seen. Carla walked past carrying a tray of biscuits. "You look like someone who's either about to cry or buy a puppy." Maya smiled. "Depends how good those biscuits smell." "They're peach and cinnamon," Carla said. "Like your mama used to make." Maya blinked. "How'd you know?" "Because you talk about her every time you're tired, overwhelmed, or stubborn, which, if I may say, is often." They both laughed. But that evening, as the sun dipped low and the lobby lights flickered to life, something unexpected returned. A letter. Hand-delivered. Anthony brought it to Maya after dinner, looking pale. Guy dropped this off, didn't say a word, just nodded and walked away. Maya took the envelope carefully. It was black, thick, with no return address. Her name written in perfect silver ink, Maya Williams. She opened it with cautious fingers. Inside, a single sheet of paper, typed, "You may think you've won. You've embarrassed powerful people, but don't mistake attention for protection. Some debts don't disappear. They wait." No signature. Maya sat down slowly, the words humming like static in her ears. It had been quiet, too quiet, and now this. She didn't panic. She didn't cry. She got up, walked to the office, and opened the hidden compartment beneath the bottom drawer, where she had stashed a copy of every invoice, ledger scan, and contact report. She added the note to a new folder labeled simply, "Threats." Then she picked up her phone. "Sarah," she said when the journalist answered, "I think someone's still watching." The next morning, Sarah arrived at the lantern house with her camera and her notepad. She read the letter twice before folding it into her bag. "Standard intimidation language," she said. "But it's real. They're probing, seeing if you'll flinch." "I won't," Maya said, eyes steady. Sarah tilted her head. "You know you're not obligated to keep pushing, right? You exposed them. The police made arrests. You've done more than most." Maya's voice was quiet, but firm. "And yet, someone still thinks they can silence me." Sarah nodded, eyes sharpening. "Then we go louder." That week, Sarah published a third article, not about the crime, but about Maya, a full spread, the woman who turned a hotel into a haven. It told the story not of corruption, but of healing, the rebirth of a forgotten place, the people who came back, the children who danced in the lobby on weekends, the elderly who held bingo in the old ballroom. The article went viral, but more importantly, it went local. Donations came in from old South Bronx residents now living across the country. Alumni from the high school across the street offered to paint murals. A retired judge who'd grown up 5 blocks away sent a check with a note, "For the woman who reminded this block of its worth." And in the center of it all was Maya, holding steady. The threats stopped. Or maybe they just became less visible. But Maya didn't let her guard down. She installed security lights around the perimeter, partnered with a local community safety patrol to keep watch at night, and, at Anthony's suggestion, started training in basic self-defense on weekends, not out of fear but to feel grounded. One evening, after everyone had gone home, Maya stepped outside with a mug of chamomile tea and sat on the front steps. The air was cool, humming with late summer crickets. Across the street, the corner bodega turned off its neon sign, and a mother pushed a stroller past, nodding politely. Then a car pulled up, black, windows tinted. Maya's spine straightened, but the door opened, and out stepped an old woman with silver hair, elegant but warm. She moved slowly, deliberately, with a cane that tapped gently against the pavement. Maya rose. "You must be Maya," the woman said. "I am. My name is Viola Kane." Maya froze. "Kane?" "Yes," the woman said. "Vincent's mother." Silence. "I'm not here to defend him," she said. "He made choices. But I read what you did, what you uncovered, and what you built." Maya didn't speak. Viola continued. "Vincent was not born cruel, but he learned power too early, and without boundaries. I couldn't stop him, but maybe now, someone like you can stop others like him." She pulled a small velvet pouch from her coat pocket. "This belonged to my late husband," she said. "He was an architect, helped build housing in this neighborhood when no one else would touch it. I believe he would have wanted this to support what you're doing." She handed Maya the pouch and turned to go. Inside was a check. $10,000. Maya didn't cry. She just stood there for a long time, staring at the quiet street, the cup in her hand still warm, and the note Viola had left in the pouch. To rebuild is harder than to destroy, but in your hands, I believe it will last. And for the first time in weeks, Maya felt not like someone who had won a war, but someone who was building peace. Maya stood at the window of room 301, one of the few rooms in the lantern house that overlooked the city skyline. It was dusk, and the lights of the Bronx shimmered like a quiet constellation. The floor beneath her feet had been resanded and polished just last week. The curtains were new, and the scent of lemonwood lingered from Carla's natural air spray. But it wasn't the view or the furniture that brought Maya up here tonight. It was what this room had once held: chaos, secrets, the silence of things unspoken. It was here Carl had signed contracts. Here some of the worst deals had been hidden. And now, it was empty, clean, and ready for something better. Downstairs, the grand room was alive with music. Tonight was the first official community gala at the Lantern House celebration of survival, resilience, and rebirth. Local vendors had donated food. Musicians played jazz near the old fireplace, and families filled the space with laughter. Children in second-hand tuxedos and sparkly shoes chased each other between tables. Maya had insisted the event be free. "We've already paid for it," she'd said. "With every shift, every scar, every story." As she walked down the stairs, she heard Carla's voice boom from the lobby. "Maya, girl, if you don't come down here and claim this peach cobbler, I swear I'm eating it for you." Laughter followed, and Maya grinned. She adjusted her simple emerald green dress, borrowed from Jenny's cousin, and made her way into the crowd. Jenny was on stage with her guitar, singing a Nina Simone classic with the kind of soul that made the whole room hush. Anthony stood near the punch bowl, engaged in a heated conversation about Knicks basketball with two retired mailmen. Even Miguel, who had once scoffed at the very idea of Maya running a hotel, was now helping a group of teens carry in extra chairs from the storage closet. When Jenny finished, applause erupted, and someone nudged Maya toward the mic. She resisted at first, shaking her head, but then Carla gave her a look, the kind that meant, "Don't argue with me unless you're prepared to lose." Maya stepped onto the makeshift stage. The crowd quieted. She looked out across a room filled with people she once thought she'd never truly know. People who, months ago, barely made eye contact in the elevator. Now they stood shoulder to shoulder like family. "I don't have a speech," Maya began, her voice steady, "but I do have something to say." A pause. "When I was 12, I asked my mom why people always called our neighborhood the rough part of the Bronx. She told me, because people don't come here expecting to see beauty, but that's their loss. I didn't understand it then, but I do now." She glanced at the lantern symbol painted above the new fireplace. Its soft glow lit up the wall behind her. "We've been underestimated, ignored, lied to, but we've never been broken. And when this place nearly got swallowed up by greed, it was your voices, your hands that pulled it back." Her eyes found Carla, then Anthony, then Jenny. "I might have signed the papers, but all of you, every single one, you built this. You made this more than a hotel. You made it a house with light." The room stood still for a breath, then applause rose, not wild or showy, but sincere. People clapped like they meant it, like it wasn't for a show but a thank you. And in that moment, Maya didn't feel like the girl who had dragged a drunk billionaire off the sidewalk. or the woman who'd stared down threats and intimidation. She felt like someone who had finally come home. Later that night, after the crowd had gone, Maya sat on the front steps with Carla, both sipping the last of the apple cider from plastic cups. "You did good," Carla said, bumping her shoulder lightly. "We did," Maya replied. The street was quiet now. A few fairy lights still blinked along the awning. The hotel behind them hummed with residual warmth, the scent of food, the sound of mops, the sigh of old walls settling in. "I've been thinking," Maya said, "about setting up a scholarship fund for kids in the neighborhood. Call it the Lantern Legacy. Help them go to school, study hospitality, or anything really." Carla smiled. "You're not stopping, are you?" Maya shook her head. "Not until this place is more than a comeback story. I want it to be a blueprint." Carla raised her cup. "To blueprints, then." Maya clinked hers against it. "To building the future." A breeze stirred the banner above the door, and Maya looked up to see the words glowing faintly under the street lamp. "The Lantern House, a place to belong." A car passed slowly down the block, the driver nodding politely. From an apartment window across the street, a child waved. Maya waved back. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe more challenges, maybe more letters, but she knew one thing for certain: whatever came, she was ready. Because the Lantern House wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who believed in starting over. And it would keep burning. Quietly, fiercely, unshakably. A light for the weary. A promise in the dark. A legacy, written one day, one name, one choice at a time.